two young boys, heirs to the mightiest throne in medieval Europe, vanished without a trace from inside the most heavily guarded fortress in England. Their disappearance would stain the British crown for centuries and turn one king into a monster of legend. Welcome to Biography Plus, where we uncover the stories behind the names. They were called Edward and Richard, the sons of King Edward IV of England. Born into the splendor of the House of York, they were symbols of peace after decades of brutal civil war. But in the spring of 1483, that peace was about to be shattered once again. King Edward IV suddenly fell ill and died, leaving his 12-year-old son, Prince Edward, as the heir to the throne. But a boy king couldn't rule alone. He was placed under the protection of his uncle, the Duke of Gloucester, Richard. To the people, Richard was a hero, loyal, brave, and wise. But as we know, ambition, like a shadow, often hides behind virtue. When young Edward was taken to London for his coronation, he was lodged inside the Tower of London, the traditional royal residence before a monarch's crowning. Soon after, his younger brother Richard joined him. Two princes together waiting for the crown to be placed upon Edward's head. No one could have imagined that these ancient stone walls would become their tomb. At first, everything seemed normal. The preparations for the coronation continued, and the city of London buzzed with excitement. But behind closed doors, the Duke of Gloucester was making his move. He declared that the late king's marriage to Elizabeth Woodville, the prince's mother, was invalid. If that were true, then her children were illegitimate, and Richard himself would be the rightful king. It was a claim built on whispers and political convenience, but in the ruthless world of power, whispers were more than enough. On June 26, 1483, Richard seized the crown for himself, becoming King Richard III. Within days, the princes were no longer seen playing in the Tower Gardens. Their laughter, which once echoed through the corridors, was replaced by an eerie silence. Months passed. Rumors began to spread like wildfire through London. Some claimed the boys had been quietly moved to a safer location, away from the political turmoil. Others whispered they had been put to sleep, a chilling euphemism for murder. Chroniclers of the time recorded strange events. A servant claimed to have seen men entering the tower under the cover of darkness, carrying mysterious bundles. Another spoke of a priest who was paid a large sum to say secret prayers for two lost souls. But there was no proof, no bodies, only a gnawing fear and a deafening silence from the throne. Years turned into decades, and the question refused to die. What really happened to the princes in the tower? Three main theories emerged, each darker and more compelling than the last. The first, and most famous, points the finger directly at King Richard III. He had the motive to secure his throne and eliminate any rivals. He had the opportunity. The boys were locked away in his fortress, under his complete control, and he had the power to enforce silence, for no one dared question the king. Centuries later, William Shakespeare would immortalize him as the twisted, hunchbacked villain who ordered the murder of his own innocent nephews. But there's a problem with this neat, tidy story. No witness ever confessed. No official document ever surfaced proving Richard's guilt. And when Richard was killed in battle just 2 years later, the truth may have died with him on the field of Bosworth. This brings us to the second theory, which accuses another powerful figure, Henry VII, the man who defeated Richard and founded the Tudor dynasty. To justify his own rule, Henry needed the princes gone. Their very existence threatened his claim to the throne. If they were alive, they could rally support and lead a rebellion against him. But if they were dead, he could blame Richard, painting himself as England's savior. It was a brilliant political move, and it worked. History, which is so often written by the victors, painted Richard as the ultimate monster and Henry as the noble redeemer. But perhaps both kings had blood on their hands. Then there is the third theory, the most haunting of all, the possibility that the princes, or at least one of them, survived. Over the years, several men appeared across Europe claiming to be one of the lost princes. The most famous was a young man named Perkin Warbeck, who insisted he was Richard, Duke of York, the younger of the two brothers. He spoke perfect English, seemed to know intimate secrets of the royal court, and gained the support of powerful enemies of the Tudor king. For years, he was a thorn in Henry VII's side, but in 1499 he was finally captured and executed as an impostor. Even as he faced his death, he never confessed to being a fraud. Could he have been telling the truth all along? Or was he just a clever pawn in Europe's dangerous game of thrones? The mystery took another dramatic turn centuries later. In 1674, workers doing renovations at the Tower of London made a chilling discovery. While digging beneath a staircase, they found a wooden box containing two small skeletons. Believing them to be the remains of the lost princes, King Charles II had the bones reburied with royal honors in Westminster Abbey. Yet, when modern scientists examined the remains in the 20th century, the evidence was inconclusive. The technology of the time couldn't confirm their age, gender, or a definitive cause of death. No DNA testing was done, so we were left with no certainty, only more questions. Today, the Tower of London remains one of the most visited historical sites in Britain. Tourists walk its halls, gaze at the famous ravens, and take photos near the ancient stone walls of the White Tower. But few realize that somewhere beneath their feet may lie the final resting place of two innocent boys, victims of power, fear, and betrayal. Their story continues to haunt British history because it reminds us of something timeless, that every crown rests upon a fragile foundation of trust, and that even in the heart of greatness, human ambition can turn love into unspeakable tragedy. Perhaps the princes never truly disappeared. Perhaps they still live on, not as ghosts roaming the tower, but as an enduring question that history cannot, and will not, silence. You've been watching Biography Plus. If you believe history still has stories to tell, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.